Bien, bonjour à tous. Bonjour à tous.
Hello, everyone. Please take a seat. It's 1:31. We're okay. We're going to start. Thank you for your interest. I see known faces in the audience. I'm Raphaël and next to me, Anne. So we're going to speak with you during half an hour with an unexpected format. We've never done it. It's going to be interactive, a dialogue. Not everything is a script. Sometimes we're going to interrupt each other. You'll have the opportunity to ask questions. We're going to talk about the current momentum around AI, the buzz around AI for positive reasons, to promote the agenda of the CISO at the Comex. And that way, we'll have, as CISOs, to get out of our comfort zone. Maybe you're not a CISO, but you're part of a cybersecurity team. And with Anne, we're going to examine how we can use that so that the Comex can take that in hand. I'm the CISO for South Europe at Palanto Networks, and that for almost 4 years. I'm taking an interest in AR for defensive and offensive cybersecurity. I started before ChatGPT. We had started talking about the generative systems to bypass IPS. And that's with a lot of pleasure that during a seminar, I met Anne at a common customers where we used to coach CISOs. You were having the floor on HR. So maybe you can introduce yourself. Hello, thank you for the invitation. I'm Anne. I've created ADEL, an agency for counsel dedicated to cybersecurity with 2 objectives. First, to help CISOs and the leaders to reinforce cyber resilience of their organizations, and also to develop cyber skills, namely so that leaders and Comex can control these cyber challenges. In terms of AI, I'm there to support the CISOs, help them to turn AIs into an opportunity to discuss with the Comex. And that has led to the discussion and to the exchange with Raphaël. Thank you for accepting the invitation. I think we're going to have a good time together. So I'm going to take the floor first as an introduction. As every year at Palo Alto Networks, we are 4 CISOs in EMEA, and each year we discuss the future trends. I'm not talking about the attackers and the phishing processes, but the trends that CISO should focus on for the next years. In December 2023, we talked about AI, of course, but we did not want only to discuss AI. First, AI creates new challenges, and we'll see that there are sensitive topics that we want to protect, but not only. And also without last December, well, very good, but why not using this time to promote the adoption of cyber for people who are less specialists, namely with generative AI or cyber, which will facilitate the interaction between a human and machine and to lower the level of skills in order to tackle cyber. We also proposed other forecasts, but it's not really the topic of the day, so I'll skip that. We think that 2024, and we are in March, April, we start saying that all major companies want to consolidate their cyber security solutions. But what we state is that be careful. Let's not throw away the baby with the water. Let's not just stack products one on top of the other to massify purchases, because maybe you'll reduce your security. The aim is also to use the platformization. It's not a specific wording to cyber. All digital companies are performant thanks to platformization of their processes and data so that security be more efficient. 4th forecast. NIS2 is coming, the Cyber Resilience Act, and we've talked about it this morning. The obligation to communicate of that to the European authorities. In terms of regulators, there are going to be a lot of traffic and maybe less time for assistance. So there will be a challenge in terms of resources and skills to address that regulatory challenge. Number 5, the boards we see that there are some representatives to the boards that start having an interest in cyber. They're no technical people, but they challenge the Comex, the CISO, CIO on the trust that they can provide in terms of managing cyber crises. Number 6, for 2024, it's a bit uncommon. And we start seeing that's the risk assessment of the future risks in terms of quantum computing. We don't know when, but it's likely to reveal data that will be encrypted, that we want to encrypt on the long term, or that we want to digitally sign on the long term. And in 5-10 years' time, maybe the encryption will be broken, so that companies start having a risk assessment of that, looking at the use cases in 5 to 10 years and how to address them with post-quantum encryption. And then next forecast, I'm going to close the loop here on AI. That's also linked to generative AI that facilitates the production of in-house codes. That means in company and not the acquisition of software or outside codes, which forces to apply the robustness practices in the codes at the speed of AI processes. They generate bugged code. It's not perfect. There are also security challenges, and we think it's going to be a real challenge for 2024. Then we also want to be less scared of AI. An illustration here that you have on the screen. There are some activists and opposers. For example, here it was about electricity. People at the time feared that they would get electricity in the street. And nowadays, people tell me, I have fears. I heard this morning, we fear the worst with AI. I don't know what the worst is all about, but it's sure that if we start stating that kind of thing, we'll not be able to reveal the positive uses of AI, and namely the DSI that envisage productivity gains. I was with an HR director some weeks ago, and she told me, we don't use AI because people are scared. And I said, well, why don't they give them as a test? And she said, even trade unions are against. And that's exactly the topic of the exchange today. AI is a huge opportunity. Well, when I say huge, we have to put nuances there. But it's a good opportunity for CISOs to put Comex and departments on board, because it's at the beginning, it's new. And if we want to lay the foundations of an AI on cybersecurity, and that will be at the core of our discussion, it's now. And as Comexes have already thought about AI, and it can come as a surprise because it's a technological topic, but the question is, how can we use that strong interest by the Comexes to take the cyber field on board, even in a structural way? And the first step will be to reassure people, no, we're not going to die. All of us know there will no be automatic attack that bypasses all defenses. And I'll make it short, because if you were at the plenary this morning, there were different things. Of course, there are accelerations in the attacks. Of course, there are improvements of the performance in the entry vectors, in the recognition step, and in phishing. And the numbers here are no public. That's internal to Palo Alto Networks. And we do some phishing assessments. And when we generate phishing mails based on generative AI to help us, to help the teams of red teams, we see an increase of the click rate by 25% when a phishing mail is generated with generative AI. And what we see on that page is that AI transforms processes, the organizations, and the strategies. And that's a common point that it has with cybersecurity. Cybersecurity forces an operational transaction also in skills and in depth. So there is no AI without cybersecurity, and both correlated will be a component of a deep transformation of organizations. It's extremely important that CISOs are aware of it and assist the transformation. When you talk about AI and cybersecurity, we can also wonder about the real scope of the cybersecurity of AI, because we go beyond the traditional scope of CISOs. You've heard about deepfakes with videos to generate fraud. These are fraud to chairman. Is it really the task of CISOs? We think that CISOs have to embrace that topic to access to people from the Comex who understand the risks on their processes, the risk of financial fraud, so that they can understand the risk of disturbing production processes, but don't care about the underlying technique. So we open the box in a way. And it can even go beyond, but that goes back to the fundamentals of the CISO. It is to protect data, have a strict governance, so that cybersecurity be integrated in the organizational governance. And also, CISO should be perceived as business partners by the other departments. I mean, if today we have CISOs that are not included in the discussion, in the daily collaboration with the colleagues on the AI use cases, we could create it. We could create on term a shadow IT, as we had with the cloud some years ago. Now we have small scales AI, and that's the right time to do some upskilling and develop the modalities of collaboration and lay the foundations in terms of organization, culture, and collaboration between the other departments and the cyber department. Now, how can we organize that agenda? We have 3 good practices that we want to provide to you. Let's start with the first one. There is no hope of productivity gain with AI. If you're a CEO of a company, you can't tell your DSI, dear DSI, please roll out AI for a productivity gain. People have tried to do that in 2023, did not work. The best practice is rather to improve the culture of AI so that each person in their use case, and we're going to talk a lot about AI use rather than technique, so that the employees, public employees who fear losing their job, of course, are going to use AI so that they can understand that they will be more performant in their tasks and not lose their job. And so that they understand that if somebody else who uses AI will be maybe more performant than they will. So their job is not going to disappear. It's a task that will be more performant. And these use cases are around innovation. They have to come from the basis. They will not be top-down. And to have them emerge, we talk about innovation. There are 2 words that we like a lot with Anne. That's frame and permissive. Indeed, because that's what I said some minutes ago. We can't tell people, you're not going to work with AI. We don't want to collaborate with you. No, we need to cooperate. We need to give them frame of reflection and action where risks are acceptable and measured. And I remember some years ago, there was the emergence of the cloud, and some customers were working about cloud in shadow IT without talking to cyber and so on. And so you had jobs that were busy with cloud, putting their personal bank account and having that paid back in their expenses. So we know we can't do that anymore. We really need to assist that logic and take position as a business partner. And that notion of business partner is very important. That means as well that CISOs have to take in hand the other jobs.
Yes, and the use cases are going to be found not imposed by a CIO. And in order to achieve this, if I take the example of cyber, so what we're going to explain, it's not something that's alongside technologies. We're going to say that there are 2 categories of AI, and I think that you'd all agree with this. And the terms vary, but there are 2 main AIs, and they're complementary. And a few months ago, somebody had said, you know, what does it mean with GPT? Does it mean traditional AI is dead? Well, no, it's not. The 2 of them can go together. And we're talking about use cases, machine learning on the left, which you can call predictive learning, etc. There are many names. but you've got to understand the use cases. And then if you've got a verdict on the right, you've got AI, which is always going to give you a forecast, but of something that is plausible, what you expect. So, for example, if you type the beginning of a text, then it will give you the end of the text, which is plausible, but it's not necessarily reliable. And both of these have to work together. And if you haven't understood that there are these two use cases and how they can complete each other, then we're going to find ourselves in trouble. So you've got to explain this in a simple way. On the left-hand side, you've got how you can do the job, accelerate, and then on the right-hand side, you can help the user to better use the machine. And what's interesting is that we had a speaker who mentioned the fact that AI was glamorous technology. And I said to myself, well, you know, it's nice to say that, but then afterwards I thought, it's not that it's more glamorous, but why have Comex and business decided to use this? Well, it's because they're thinking of a use case. It's something that's very practical and usable for them. They don't necessarily understand the technology more. They don't necessarily understand technologies linked to AI or cybersecurity, but they do understand the use case. And so if we base the cybersecurity strategy on the use case of AI, then business will understand the challenge and what's at stake. And that's where it's important, because AI is an opportunity and it's positive for CISO, because if they take the use cases and they explain the risks that are linked to it, and if they talk about it in business terms, then they're going to bring on board all of the Comex and business. Now, if I talk to the use case for IS managers, for example, now, I'm not presenting the products, but I just wanted to show you the use cases of, we've got the security on the left-hand side, and then you've got the cloud in the middle, and then you've got three different use cases, three different types of users. And we'll come back to these different types of users afterwards. And AI creates the link between the three of them with different data sets, with shared semantics, with what we call a platform, with the structures of standardized data via these three different platforms. And that's what's going to give an added value, power, efficiency to these platforms, thanks to AI. Now, we're not going to go into more detail. You just have to understand the network, cloud, and security operations, and AI comes along as a facilitator and enabler so that you can carry out the different actions for these different populations. I've taken three examples of a use of AI that we have in our portfolio. We've been working on this for 10 years now, because Palos existed for 15 years. We started with a firewall, and in 2013, the first use case for AI was to detect PDF, binary files that were coming from malware and that had nevertheless been filed. So today we'd call that a sandbox. So it's a detection of malware with AI. Now I'm going to take the example of cloud security, because containerization has given us something which is quite nice, because a microservice within a container has a behavior which is simple. So an AI can understand a microservice within that. And then if you take a baseline by saying all of the containers that are generated by these coordinates will be like this, and once there is a deviation in behavior, then we know that there's a problem. And it's the same with the cloud. And then in terms of operation security, if you take the generative IT example, you've got the chatbot, for example, with an orchestrator which will give you remediation playbooks, but when you realize that you've used the same one 5 times in a specific area, then it will offer you the same remediation scenario and ask you whether the 7th time it should stop asking you the question, because that way everyone will save time and the problem will be solved more quickly. So we've got various cases, but I think it's good to talk about these use cases. We'll talk a lot about co-pilots in the months and years to come. What's interesting, I'm not going to go through all of them, but if you look at co-pilots in cybersecurity, first of all, you've got to find lots of information, interpret it so that you can offer dashboards or reports in real time, or drafts that have to be read afterwards, or whether it be for preventive maintenance. This isn't specific to cyber criminality. And what's interesting in this presentation is that you can say that AI is going to change the skills because we're going to have new functions available for our employees, and that's going to have an impact on human resource management, skills management in terms of operational teams that have all the business teams that are going to use AI, but also for the cyber teams as well. And so that's going to force human resources and CISO and business to work on skills to see how we can develop an approach which is based on skills and enable those skills to evolve permanently and as time goes by in accordance with changes in AI. And the aim isn't to replace human beings because that's not the objective, but to change the position so that humans deal with added value tasks. So anything that's repetitive and anything that's not feasible by hand, which is already the case. And so you can see that artificial intelligence is and cyber are converging, transforming in a structural way so that society can evolve, so that organization can evolve, and also human resources. So obviously, we're not going to overinterpret the capabilities of AI, which is what you said when we were preparing this. We're not all going to die all of a sudden because obviously AI can lead to a lot of silly things being said if you don't understand what's going on. You've got to look at the use case if you want to understand. And we've all got to develop our own skills so that we can take a step back and have a critical way of looking at AI and improve our skills as we move forward. Now, this is a fake artist who drew this. It wasn't me. Now let's have a look at the role of CISO. Lots of people said, you know, it's a bit like the arrival of the cloud. It's faster. But we're just frightened that we're going to have shadow IT and we're going to have leakages of data. Now, I wanted to show you a new way of looking at this. The second role of the CISO is to ensure the security of AI infrastructure. Third aspect concerns the supply chain. I hope you all do this. It's a bit more complicated, but we're already working on this. Now, normally you take a normal information system, we adapt it to AI, and once that's done, then we'll say that the CISO's done his or her job, and that's where we stop. Or we can go further than that, or the CISO's got to have an approach which is similar to business, move quickly, but with little steps, because you go forward use case by use case. You start with the CISO as a business partner. The idea is to raise awareness, to train business on the cybersecurity challenges for each of the use cases, lay the foundations of cybersecurity as well, that have got to be long-term viable. And so there could be contracts signed with service providers, ecosystems, training as well in the technical teams and cybersecurity teams, because we also have to keep an eye on AI as well once we're in run mode. And so the cyber teams have got to improve their skills as well. So it's that small steps policy which is going to enable us to create a collaboration, improve our skills, and lay the foundation so that long-term we can set up AI factories which are operational and which are effective and efficient as well, and that are as secure as possible. Are you ready to go further than your initial job description with us? Yes? Are you all ready? Okay. Let's go further. We're going to talk about AI safety. Now, within this, you've got the cyber risks, but the first risk is going to be in terms of resilience, operational reliability linked to the AI supply chain that you might want to address, maybe not yourselves, but it could be as a team with purchasing, etc. But that's the first risk. Second, it's more traditional. That's information risk. I won't come back to that. And then the third one, which is fun to explain to the Comex, is the decision or cognitive risk, which is what I call decision liability. So it's the way in which you understand the decisions that are suggested by AI. And for each use of AI, you have to risk analyze everything, or have a minimal risk analysis. As I said, you have to move forward step by step, but you have to have a cyber risk analysis for each use case, which will then enable you to bring on board the Comex and business. And yet again, it will give value to cyber safety and cyber security, because it really will take on an added value because we explain to teams in a concrete, practical way why they need cybersecurity. Now, you say, oh, we could have done it before, but a few years ago we didn't have that rationale. Now the objective is to have security by design, but giving purpose to business as well. And we're going to apply to ourselves what we're offering. We're going to give you examples to illustrate this. The first operational risk is of a doctor who's going to give a medical diagnosis on the basis of an X-ray, where AI is going to look for tumors. Now, how can we trust the fact that in life, in a hospital, with a doctor, the diagnosis might have to wait because there's a problem in the whole chain? And here I've given you some examples from a technical point of view, but I'm not going to suggest that you talk to the Comex like this, but it's good to know. So what is the source of the risk? After that, it's up to you to explain it. So it's in the AI components, because we're talking about software with machine learning, we're talking about infrastructure, and we're also talking about data. And in these three components, you've got sources of risk. So I'm going to take the example of the risk for membership and intellectual property. So these are attacks from AI, which means that authors have got to prove that a model was carried out using data which falls under some form of intellectual property. And so then you'd have to turn to the provider of AI, or maybe the service might not be able to use the data set. And that's quite new. It's not technical, but you can use that as an explanation. Now, if we take the case of a doctor, you can imagine that the doctor who's going to use AI to carry out a diagnosis, that's the positive side, because it's going to level up the skills for doctors. But all of this diagnosis has got to be made on the basis of integral and correct data. And so there's a risk, and that's why it's so important. And this is easy to explain to business, to say if you have a diagnosis on the basis of a diagnosis of an algorithm that wasn't a good algorithm, then you might have problems. Yes, there's a risk which isn't IT, but it's not very good in terms of human lives. Second information risk that you've probably seen, we've already spoken about network or application security, and one of the important things is revealing the spontaneous uses of AI. It's a bit like the cloud, and as we have got a case here, for example, if you enable your employees to find the use case which corresponds to their own job, then that gives you innovation, and you have to reveal these uses. And after that, you have to think of a policy for using AI, which is not going to be top down by saying, okay, I'm not going to allow you to use ChatGPT, for example. I can't go into any detail about the policy, but it's got to be a table with 3 entry points. So the type of AI you use, is it external or not? Second, with regards to the group of users, and it's what we call personae, or use cases per user, and we look at the risks. Yes, and the risk has got to be accepted, because when it's been given in business terms, we say, okay, if we share this data or that data, especially when we're in the learning phase, sometimes it's better to take data sets which are slightly more restrictive, but which are going to be more secure. Then I think it's easier to explain in a more structured way, especially for business, because business is going to understand this, but everything we're talking about is risk analysis, which has got to be done systematically. And we were talking about research in the pharmaceutical industry, so we were trying to summarize all of the new molecules, for example, for antibiotics. This is data which isn't too sensitive, but the day the algorithm gives you a promising molecule where you would like to have a patent which will give you billions of dollars, then that gives you information which is so sensitive, except that it started on infrastructure that wasn't for sensitive data. And so here we've got to take into account the business aspect rather than the tech aspect. How can we bring this information and data back to a more secure framework? And so this is where you've got to talk to data, because that can't come from tech, it's got to come from the business side. And then the last risk, which I think is quite nice as well, is in trading. You know that there are bots, chatbots, that are assistant traders. We've got assistants for everything now, even for financial investment. And the screenshot that you see here comes from a research paper that I found in November, about 5 months ago. And it's possible to prompt so that you can be given information which is valid, and you'll have a great investment, and you'll say, okay, I would advise you to invest in liquid gas. You should buy it because something's going to happen. And the chatbot will reveal that to give you that advice, it will have used information that was captured within your company, within your fund, non-public information. And for those of you who are in this type of business, it is actually called insider trading to use this type of information that comes from your own business, and that can therefore lead to an investment which is carried out without realizing it using insider information. And so that's another new risk, and who's going to address that if it's not the CISO? So again, if the trader knows that there's a cyber risk, what's he going to say? But traders are used to this. They're used to risk management. They do that every day. Each trade, each transaction is linked to a risk which is accepted by them. And so if we say to them, okay, in that case, you've got a risk of insider trading, they're going to maybe listen to you a little bit more so that they can include cybersecurity and include what you're going to say and take that into account. So again, it's the leitmotif of what you do, but this is the risk. Start with the risk, start with the business risk, so that you can actually then talk about cybersecurity. Yes, and they'll listen because it's something that has an impact on their job every day. So if we conclude, so cybersecurity, AI shares three things. Data, as we saw, there are more and more questions of compliance. AI has to follow regulations, and cybersecurity in some business fields is very limiting given the regulations, and it's data management and regulation which will force you to have structured governance, and it's going to be very strict, and that will bring together these two themes, because if we want to fulfill all of the requirements of cybersecurity compliance, then we can no longer allow ourselves to have a dichotomy between these two subjects in terms of governance and Comex. And so not only are we going to integrate them in the governance of the company, we're also going to include them in the corporate strategy and the organization and the way in which the company is structured. Are there any questions to conclude? That was it, just to finish. If not, I'll leave you with our cheat sheet. So this is a form of self-assessment. What would you say that your level is within your company in terms of AI? So first of all, you have got your policy for use. Secondly, you have used tools to find the use with networks and man analysis. Thirdly, you've decided that there is data which is sensitive. And then the fourth level is that you can start to protect applications. Now, who is at level 4? So drawing up a policy, seeking visibility, protecting data sets, protecting AI base. So who's at level 1, 2, 3? Level 3 means that you've started to protect data sets. So you've got DLP, for example, to make sure that there is no source code that's going to go out to a chat to GBT, for example. Level 2, if you're at level 2, it means that you're currently revealing the use of AI in your company, so that's half the room, okay? And level 1, who's at level 1, means that you've got a policy, but there is no tool actually implemented. So that's everyone else. Don't be shy. So we've got to compare with each other, see where we are, and level 8 means that you actually control the supply chain of AI, and I think we're far from achieving that. So if there are any CISO that would like to get that far, obviously there's a lot of work to be done, but it is going to give so much meaning and purpose to cybersecurity once we actually achieve that. So by way of conclusion, we've given you some references for reading if you'd like to go a bit further, if you found us interesting, to illustrate this presentation. And we'll be available for discussing this with you once the presentation is finished. So thank you very much. Thank you, Anne.